So I'm not only here with Pinky, but I'm also here with the brain, also known as Maurice LaMarche. Thank you for joining us, Maurice. Also.
My pleasure. Thanks. Thanks for
Yes,
having me.
you tell me who's the genius. Narf.
And who's insane? I'm a 2-inch lab mouse who thinks he can take over the world.
So I'm cleaning my oven.
So my first question has already been answered. But when I was interviewing Dave Goelz with the Muppets, he was the original Gonzo.
We've always wanted to do the Incredible
Rosie.
Two-Headed Man.
Yeah.
With me as Rosie Greer.
Yeah, I'm Ray Milan.
There you go.
See, none of you kids have any idea what we're talking about, but
So
say love
what,
you.
first question.
Dave
I'm
Goelz.
sorry.
Okay, Dave Goelz.
We're zany.
Yeah. To the max.
So when I was interviewing Dave, he said he was actually forbidden to do his characters, his Muppet Henson characters, once Henson sold the characters to Disney.
Right.
Clearly, you're not under, are you only allowed to do the voices and these kinds of voices?
Absolutely. We are absolutely forbidden.
Yeah.
We just don't care.
We don't give a shit.
That's right.
Yeah, we're in the witness protection program.
Yes.
No, nobody's ever.
We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have that issue.
in our contracts.
And I think that that can be an issue for some actors, and I totally understand why. And some actors whom we know prefer to keep their anonymity. But we just big giant ham bones. We
That's
don't
right.
care.
We'll do the voices for anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody, anywhere, anything. You know?
We'll gnar for food.
That's right. And we'll do your voicemail for $20. Yes.
So one asks the chicken and the egg question. Obviously, the script comes first. But beyond that, how much latitude, how much changes within the voice work? How much do you inspire the imagery? How much do you change the script?
I go through it with a highlighter and just, not this, not this. That line's too good for Rob Paulsen. Give it to me. No, really, it's even animation is a writer's medium, especially great stuff like Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. I've been lucky to work on Futurama. It's so well written. Why would you want to touch it? That said, every now and then a little ad-lib will inform the characters more, and the writers will say as we get into season 5, no, we kind of changed it because you brought some stuff to the character that was not that was not there when we originally wrote it. Hedonism bot, for instance, in Futurama became much more and so they began to write for hedonism. It'll say hedonism bot lusty sound, or whatever, and it became a more energetic character as we went on, that type of thing.
Yeah, you're also surrounded by world-class talents like Maurice and Billy West and John DiMaggio and Tress MacNeille and Tara Strong, all these great actors who raise the bar and they inspire you to come up with cool stuff. And if you're lucky enough to work on a show for a while, the characters morph and things become more germane to the character, more organic, more interesting. And then you have something like Pinky and the Brain 20 years later, folks like you come up and we do our little point and narf, and you do exactly what you're doing now. You're smiling. And so that's what, it is a total collaborative medium.
Yeah, synchronicity. I mean,
we don't
I'll tell you the biggest example, you mentioned John DiMaggio. Bender started out in season 1 of Futurama as a depressed robot. He sounded like this, and everything was all like in here. And as John's own personal bravado began to inform the character, by season 7, he was, and I don't do a good Bender, but he's like, Bender is great, and he's just always running around, and he's got all the confidence in the world because that's John DiMaggio.
It's him.
So it's a symbiosis. Yeah, it definitely does.
Now,
I just touched your palm. I'm very sorry.
It's all right.
Unless
It's
you
the most
enjoyed it,
excitement
which
I've had
cuts
for years, mate. Thank you.
So real estate agents always say everything is location, location, location. But comics say the timing is everything. So when we were talking about the latitude you have in terms of changing lines, I also want to ask you about timing, because you only have a certain amount of length and your movements have to fit the character's movements. Are you sometimes that, no, don't stretch that word out, or are you constrained in those ways?
We're not constrained by the visuals because unlike anime, which generally is recorded in Japan and the actors in various countries revoice them, we primarily do original animation. So we're recorded first and they draw the pictures to fit us.
We're more like radio that they then make funny pictures to. Right. But we have a lot more.
Huge latitude. And often there will be pieces that the script will change because on the spur of the moment, Maurice might say something that inspires the writers to change a joke, and we're not locked into the picture. So it's not like Mrs. Doubtfire. It's not like...
No, that was the most false interpretation of what we do I've ever seen in the movies. The fact I love Robin Williams, I'm a big fan, but nobody walks in and can do 3 minutes of dialogue off the top of their head, syncing to a character and change it as they go. Just it's not doable. It's not done.
And so to that extent, then the timing is something that's put together after the fact by editors, timers, storyboard artists. All that stuff is generally put down and they have an idea of where it's going, but we're not limited by what's on the screen.
So I want to ask the Carol Burnett question, which is, have you ever
seen Harvey Korman naked? Yes, as a matter of fact, I have.
Not that one.
Yeah.
But have you ever gotten a script and you're in the studio and you just can't get through it? You're just laughing too hard and you need a second day or a third day?
No, we've never had to go to a second day, but there were episodes where, especially the tongue twister episode of Pinky and the Brain, Kicky Sack, Sock Kickers from Secaucus. Yeah, I don't know. That was a tough one to get through, and we did go a little extra long on it because, oddly enough, you blew the least lines. I blew the second least. The guy who was the Guinness Book of World Records fast talker, John Machida, who played the boss in that episode, he actually blew the most lines. I was very surprised by that. Not that he, what ended up on tape was fantastic, but we thought, well, he's going to be the one because he does that talking thing all the time, and it was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's we have many times where we have to stop and get a breath because again, you're hanging out with. Maurice is an accomplished stand-up comedian, and Billy West, same thing. John DiMaggio, Welker, all these guys are so talented and so funny, and it is a mutual admiration society. I'm a fan of theirs, so it's going to work with people that you would choose to pay money to go see, and so they make me laugh. It is the best job in the world, bar none, without question.
We're all fans of each other.
Yeah.
That's the thing. In the voiceover business, because it's not a face business. We don't have the constraints or whatever of, and also not our ego. Our egos don't get as involved, So we all root for each other. We're all friends. We all just cheer each other on, So,
It's great.
Big fan of yours.
I'm a big fan of yours too, Brian.
Yes, Pinky. Together we can take over Awesome Con.
Yes. We're starting right now.
Nerf.
And last question. Do you have a favorite baby? Is there a scene or an episode that you've done throughout your career on any show that just stands out for you?
Well, probably the one that most people like is when I was doing Animaniacs, I got to sing a song about all the countries of the world. And so people like United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, and that's one that is a real big crowd pleaser for me. As far as a favorite, I don't know. I mean, I have an embarrassment of riches. I'm so lucky. And people say, what's your favorite job? And my answer is the next one, because we're so grateful to be working. So I can't specifically name one, but the Countries of the World song is one that everybody likes, and I love doing it. So that's a good one.
For me, it's the Christmas episode of Pinky and the Brain. Our Christmas special won the Primetime Emmy that year, beating out The Simpsons. Yeah, we won. The show won the Primetime Emmy. Yeah.
Oh, wow, cool.
So that was to me that was the culmination of fullness of the relationship of Pinky and the Brain. Because any acting class I took told me always play the love in the character. Well, here was a curmudgeonly character who's constantly annoyed, but underneath I always tried to make sure that there was a love for Pinky, which was hard to put across. And in that show, you got to see it. And yet he didn't quite, totally give it up. So I love that episode. That was, and beautifully animated too. They spent a little extra money on that one.
You actually made me a liar. I came up with one more thought.
Okay.
Ray Bradbury once said to me, though not directly to me, that in every story, the first graph ought to hit at least 3 of your senses. You should see something, you should touch something, you should smell something, and if you do so, you're going to bring the audience in.
Right.
And I imagine it's the same in animation, and clearly you have the advantage already of having the visual. One of the other things he said is that no matter how fantastic you have, there's got to be a certain connectability, a certain consistency of reality. Is that something that comes from the writing, the director, or is that the homework of the actor?
Well, I would probably the safe answer is to say it's a sort of homologation of everything. I mean, I tell people.
Did you use the word homologation?
I did. How about that?
I don't even know that word, and I'm the brain.
Homologation.
Homologation.
Yeah. Or it's a homogenization of the whole thing. It's a blending. I don't write them and I don't draw them. I just act. However, I know that, as Maurice said at the beginning of our interview, often we are approached by producers and writers who are inspired by work that we do to change characters, presumably for the better, and vice versa. When you're given scripts like Futurama and Pinky and the Brain of the Simpsons or Family Guy, they're just so solid, and they inspire you in turn. So I think that with respect to what Mr. Bradbury said, certainly you can't argue with anything Mr. Bradbury said about story. It's all about caring about the characters. The people have to have a connectability and say, oh my God, I see something in there that I want to watch. Something reminds me of myself, of my father, of a friend. Even if you don't like the character, you have to care about what happens to the character in the context of the story. So to me, nothing seems to work that I've been on unless it's a combination of all of it, right? Homologation?
Yeah. I agree. Thank you for explaining it so well that I don't have to.
That's my friend, the Brain.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thanks
It's a pleasure.